Chavre, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark, und freilich, begashmus und beruchnis. I hope everybody is healthy, strong, and happy physically and spiritually. As usual, since the war started, we add tzedakah, gdelet tzedakah shemakarev segula. Mashiach should come now in the schus of the tzedakah. Now we're going to say a prayer. We'll say tzedakah and then avodah prayer. We said this last week. This pasuk we can say it again because it's connected to the theme that we're speaking about this week, which is also connected to the same theme and similar to last week, which the parashas of Vayakal and Pekudei are similar. V'hinoyam adinoya liheinu aleinu, umay seyadeinu keinen aleinu, umay seyadeinu keineneo. May the pleasantness of Hashem, our Hashem, be upon us. Establish for us the work of our hands. Establish the work of our hands. So we say twice, Umaise Yodeinu, the work of our hands. Umaise could also refer to action, deed. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the supremacy of deed. And now we come to this week's parsha. This Shabbos is Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Pekudei. So it's Shabbos Chazak. It's also Shabbos Mevorchim Reish Chodesh Nisan. Shabbos is the last day of Chodesh Adar, Chavtes, Oder, and then Sunday is Reish Chodesh Nisan. So, first of all, something which is unusual, but I believe in it very much, is we all believe in Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence. And like I've said many times, you have to look for the signs, you have to listen to the messages. So if Navlem mit the Parsha Shavua, like the Alter Rebbe said, we have to live with the Parsha of the week. Where and how many times do we find that the calendar, what we're going through in the month, is connected to the Parshas HaShavua? Not often. So this week's Shabbos is also Parshas HaChodesh. HaChodesh is a pasuk which we read, the Parshas HaChodesh we read in Parshas Boi, HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem, which talks about Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which starts on Sunday. But guess what? In this week's Parsha, there's the mention of Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So Hashem is making us focus on the Maila of Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So much so that the pasuk says clearly that the date where the Mishkan, the beginning of Vayhi b'Chodesh Harishon b'Shana Hashenes be'echad l'Chodesh hukam HaMishkan. The Yom Hashmini l'Miluyim is Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So that means that now we have Sai in the Parsha of the week where it speaks about Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and Sai is Parshas HaChodesh. So it's a double reminder, do I have your attention? Focus on this, concentrate on this point. Now, what is amazing about Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and also in this week's Parsha, where it says that in a way, and we spoke about this probably many times, and this answers the question in a way. The Rebbe asked this question in some places: what's the connection of the end of Sefer Shmos to the beginning of Sefer Shmos? It's a Sefer which is called Sefer Geula, which means redemption, Exodus. So in the beginning, the of Shmos speaks about how we went down into exile, into Egypt, which could refer to struggles, adversity, concealments, obstacles in a person's Avodas Hashem, the world. And then we come to the end of the Sefer, which is the climax and the ultimate culmination of the entire story. And that's redemption, transcendence. How physical, on the physical world, Hashem descended and infuses the physical. As we said many times, when does the Eibishter say, Basi legani achoisi kala? Not on the day of Matan Torah of Sivan, but almost a year later, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that's when Hashem says, Basi legani, hello, I'm back on earth in a revealed way, in the physical tabernacle, in the physical sanctuary. So, I don't want to get into the whole contrast, but the point is that Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the day which we say represents the culmination of everything. Now, when we say it's the culmination of everything, just to show you the Baal HaTurim, an amazing Balaturim where it says the following on the Pasuk, Kapitel Lamed Tes, Pasuk Lamed Beis, where it says, Vateichel kol avedis mishkan oil moyed, that all the work of the tabernacle was completed. Vayasu b'nei Yisrael kachel shetziv Hashem es Moshe keinosu. A lot of commentators speak about this over here. What does it mean that first it says that the avodah was completed, then it says Vayasu kol b'nei Yisrael kachel shetziv Hashem? But anyways, the Baal Term says over here, Vateichel, lace. There's no other pasuk that says that's the word Vateichel. There's no other place where it says that word in the Torah. Loimar ki ato kolom leches kol ha'elam, which means this comes to tell us that the work of the entire world is completed. Now, what does it mean? What the Balaturim is telling us is, that's it. This was the moment we were waiting for. But not only this is the moment we're waiting for, the entire reality, the entire existence, the entire creation of the world was waiting for this day. Some commentators bring out that Vateichel, the Balaturim connects to the beginning of Bereshit when it speaks about the creation of the world. Vayichulu hashamayim v'aretz. That's when the Eibishter completed his work. So too over here, when we finish the work of the Mishkan, Vateichal, it's like the entire creation, existence, and reality was finished. So again, I don't want to elaborate. We spoke about this many times, but the truth is that only when we have the Alter Rebbe teaching us and revealing to us, V'zeh kol ha'odam, v'sachlas b'diyosei, uv'riyas kol ha'elamais, el yoinim v'sachtoinim, liyas le'dira zoi b'tachtoinim, that the whole purpose of everything, of reality, of all the worlds, spiritual and physical, was that God wanted a dwelling place, Hashem down here, wanted a dwelling place down here below. The Mishkan is the epitome, in the most demonstrative manner, of this concept of dira b'tachtoinim. Because concerning the Mishkan, he actually says, V'osu li migdosh v'shachanti b'seichem. It's as if the Eibishter was saying, V'osu li dira. That was, the Mishkan is the most explicit dwelling place and home for Hashem. And in that is everything, the entire creation. And that's what it says over here. Ki ata kolo meleches kol ha'elam. That's the real pshat of the Balaturim. That on Rish Chodesh Nisan, when the whole thing is finished and the Eibishter is now going to come down into this Mishkan, that's what everything is about. Not only one mitzvah, that it's one of the 613 mitzvahs, but what is it about? It's about everything. V'zeh kol ha'odam, v'sachlas b'yosei, v'yas kol ha'elamis, el yoinim v'sachtoinim, liyas le'izbarach dira zeh b'tachtoinim, kol ha'meleches kol ha'elam. Okay. So now we have some obvious questions. This was all just to bring out the enormity of what we're experiencing this Shabbos. And what does it mean, Rosh Chodesh Nisan? How amazing, monumental, and epic it is. However you're going to describe it, imagine someone is going to tell me the totality of everything, of existence. And not just existence, our existence. Atzilus, Bri, Tzira, Liftet, some Ark. Everything is right over here in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, when the Mishkan was completed. Okay. So now, there's two obvious questions. One obvious question, which every single commentator speaks about Vayakam Pekudei. It seems that it's very repetitious. After we have Truma and Tetzaveh, and all the commandments over there talking about how we should build a Mishkan, then comes Vayakam Pekudei. Usually we say that by Rabbi Akiva, for example, the Gemara says that the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu was patchking over there with the Eibishter was patchking, making tagin on the Torah, was because the Gemara says one day there'll be a Rebbe Kiva and he's going to learn tilim shal halachis just from the crowns on the oases. So we see how the Torah is so careful and precise when it comes to words. And over here, it seems like two whole parshas recounting after the Eibishter already gave the command. There could be one pasuk that just said, And after Hashem commanded us what to do, we did it. Why does it have to elaborate so much? 2 parshas in the Torah. Another question, Islam, interessant. We describe the people that made the Mishkan as Chacham Leiv. What does this mean, Chacham Leiv? Chacham is usually connected to intellect. That's Chacham, wise, which is a word which represents the intellect. Leiv is the heart, which represents emotions. So what does it mean, Chacham Leiv? So there's a word used in the secular called emotional intelligence. I don't know exactly what that means precisely in the Goyish Welt. I didn't learn psychology, but I'm going to translate what means Chacham Leiv according to Chassidus, according to the Torah. And this is also going to answer the question of what is the whole elaboration that the Torah gets into in Pashat Vayakal Pekudei. And the answer is based on the Sikha of the Rebbe in Chelik Aleph, I think it's Pekudei. A very simple answer, but it's really profound. And that is that there's a difference if we speak about potential or actuality. Everything in Parshas Truma Tetzaveh is really potential. Koyach, and then there's Poel. Koyach is the potential. Hashem is giving us the command, and is giving us, empowering us with the ability to do it. That's Koyach. That's Parshas Truma Tetzaveh. Then comes Vayakal and Pekudei. That's the actuality. Vayas, that the Yidden did it. And the Torah repeats it, I don't know how many times, 19 times, 18 times. They did everything according to the way the Eibishter commanded. More than 18 times. The way it says that Kashatziv Hashem is Moshe. Anyways, and what does that teach us? Contrary to what you may think, my friend, the distance between potential and actuality is like saying the good news is it's very short, because once you have the potential, that's the main thing, empowerment. The bad news is it may be the longest distance that you could imagine. How is that? So the truth is, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya chapter 1 says that there's Arba Yesodis Royim, there's 4 evil elements, and one of them he calls the Yesod Ofar, the element of earth. What comes from the element of earth? Atzlus ve'atzrus. My friends, this is going to be a very sober discussion. I hope nobody gets offended. It's a frank discussion. The Alter Rebbe says that Atzlus translates slothness, but you could say laziness. I'm sorry, my friends, laziness. Va'atzvus, a melancholy or depression, comes from the element of earth. Now, with this statement, the Alter Rebbe is telling us something so profound, so relevant, so essential to succeeding in life. And this is a message we could take from Parshas Pekudei. I don't know if we'll be able to have all the time to get into whatever I want to say today. To be successful, the first thing you have to overcome is this calamity, this affliction called procrastination, or atzlus, and atzvus. So what we don't realize, and mashpiyim don't talk about it so much, and I don't understand why. Everyone knows, if we talk about atzvus, depression, and we speak about one of the major contributions of Chassidus, everyone knows that Chassidus came and emphasized the importance, the paramount of the importance, the supreme importance of joy. All Chassidim. Mitzvah gedola liyois b'simcho, liyois b'simcho. And the Alter Rebbe brings it out also in Peli Chavav, that without being in a state of positivity and joy, there's no way you could overcome any adversity, any challenge. But what about laziness? In today's modern, progressive world, you can't say someone's lazy. You You have to say he's not motivated or uninspired. But the Alter Rebbe, I'm sorry, my Rebbe, my doctor, the supreme doctor of Torah, my doctor of spirituality, the Alter Rebbe, who's the one who said that the whole Sefer Tanya was to give a person eitzes, how to deal with his life, says that there's something called Atzlus. And it's connected to Atzlus. So just like everyone understands how depression is the most debilitating obstacle, we have to talk about this idea of laziness. And now the Rebbe calls it clearly Atzlus, and he puts it in the same family, in the same group as Atzlus. Why? So there's two general explanations. What does it mean that something comes from Yesod Offer? One explanation is that Yesod Offer is the heaviest. That means it brings you down compared to water, fire, and oxygen. Earth is the heaviest. It brings you down. So in other words, the difference between and why it's so bad, negative, is because when it comes to certain ailments, like physical ailments, you could say it's just a detail. Somebody has a problem. He has a runny nose. He has a rash. So it's a problem. It doesn't affect the entire body. It's localized, it's specific, it's limited. But then certain conditions that a person has, that's comprehensive. Immune suppressant. His whole immune system has been jeopardized and compromised. Or if he has something wrong with a vital organ, in his heart or in his mind, etc. So too, when we say that someone is lacking in joy, or he has this problem called Atzlus, it's a problem that's not localized, it's general. It's a paralyzing disease. It brings you down generally. It's not that it's going to be something which is holding you back in one area. It's something which is general, and that's why it's so terrible. That's one meaning of what does it mean that it comes from Yesod Offer, that it prevents you from advancement. Then there's another explanation that the commentaries bring on Tanya. That what's Yesod Offer? Yesod Offer means like the earth, everyone treads upon the earth. There's something called an eskufa nedresses, a doormat. A doormat means not only are you not being productive, you're being withheld from advancement, you're paralyzed, but it means that now you become a magnet for negativity. There's nothing as bad as a void. There's a void which attracts the negative. In other words, if a person has idle hands, like they say, so that means, in other words, there's a void because there's a laziness and you're not being active, you're not being involved. There's nothing filling that void. Automatically, automatically, that draws into it as a magnet negative things. So again, that's why it's worse than other problems. Some problems you have, again, because it's a specific problem, so therefore we have to deal with the specific problem. We deal with the specific problem, and it's only one specific problem. It's a small problem. But when you have a void, that's not a small problem, it's a huge problem. And and as long as that void is there, you're fighting off things that are coming from all directions and from every single direction. As the saying goes, stand for something or fall for everything. Hashem Yirach. So now we understand the problem of Atzlus. Once we understand the problem of Atzlus, we see the beauty of Zrizus, of somebody who understands that he has to be an achiever. And therefore first we have to identify, like it says, first we have to understand the enormity of a problem, and then to be on guard, to always try to be active. That's why we were taught, it's not about learning, it's not about study, but it's about the action. And this is the lesson that we see that has to be hammered home again and again in Parshas Pekudei. That it's very nice that we spoke about the plan, but it's the implementation and the action. And we have to hear this 18, 19 times, or how many times it says in the Parsha that they did it. Because every single time they did it, it went through a monumental journey of 1 billion miles, so to speak. Because the distance from the plan into the action could be the greatest distance you could imagine. And we have to hammer home the point that it's about the completion. That's what matters. That it happened, etc. And this is why, this is the message. In life, in general, people talk about what's more important, the plan or the action. It's a huge discussion. My nature, I believe in the idea, we say, failure to plan is planning to fail. Usually you're in life, you're in a situation, you look at an organization, or you look at whatever it is, you could call it anything, and you see there's a problem, and then you realize, when did the problem start? You think the problem started here? It was because the whole plan, at the outset, at the inception, there was a problem. That's one way to look at things. Why planning and the blueprints is the main thing, and creativity, etc. But you know what? The truth is, you can have all the plans, you can have all the creativity, but if it's not possible, if it's not reality, if it doesn't come down into fruition, into actuality, you're missing the main point. And that's the lesson of Parshas Pekudei. And that's the lesson that has to be hammered again and again. And that's why Lo Yamed L'Shika Ela Ma'aseh. So that's one lesson. And now we understand why the Torah repeated itself in Parshas Pekudei. And now we understand what means Chacham Lev. What does Chacham Lev mean? Chacham Lev means, according to Chassidus, we have the Moichin and we have the Midas. And as the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter 3, that the intellect is called the mothers, and the emotions are called the children, the toldos. So the point is, in life, you have plenty of people that have good ideas. They could speak fancy. I find this a lot with the progressive left. But when you actually look at it, is it a solution? So what's tachlis? What are you saying? And you know what? It's just words. It doesn't really come to conclusions. You could take it this way, you could take it that way. If you want to know what is the real wisdom, the real wisdom is when it's chacham leiv, when the intellect comes to an emotion. It comes to concrete takeaway. It comes to concrete resolutions. It comes to outcomes. And the outcomes are real. Hello, reality. And as long as it doesn't come down to realities, it's just fantasies, it's delusional. It's intellect. Who cares about intellect if it doesn't actually come down into action? And for that reason, we have the famous lines, In Chacham Kebal Nesoyin, there's nothing as wise as a person who's been through a test. The greatest teacher is experience. What time will accomplish, which means experience, intellect cannot accomplish. In other words, the same idea. The message of Pekudei. The message of Pekudei is that we have to realize that if something if it doesn't come down into actuality, that means it's not really an accomplishment. It's not really the ultimate wisdom. Real wisdom has to be like Aleph Mem Sof. It goes through every single stage, from potential, from Aleph, from its inception to its final execution. Aleph Mem Sof. If it's missing in the Sof, that means it's missing in the Aleph. The truth is, I wanted to talk about one more lesson from this week's Parsha. Maybe we'll have to leave it for another time. I'll just say it in 2 words, just so it gives you room to thought. Maybe we'll have to leave it for another year. There's a Gemara in Menachos Daf Tzadik Tes Amud Aleph, which learns from a pasuk from this week's Parsha, which is the next lesson about actuality to be successful. And that is, the Gemara says that from the pasuk of this week's Parsha, we learn Mailim B'Kodesh. And that pasuk is the pasuk which says that Vayokom Moshe es Mishkan. Moshe raised the Mishkan. Vayiten es Adonov. Vayosam es Kroshov. Vayiten es Brichov. Vayokem es Amudov. See the Gemara over there, and Rashi brings 3 interpretations. But he says from here we see that we can't downgrade anything in holiness. From here we learn out Mailim B'Kodesh, the idea that we can't go down, we have to go up. There's other examples over there in the Gemara. My point over here is that there's one stage where we're going down. There's another stage where we keep it as status quo. And in a way, that's already a graduation from atzlus, which is laziness. Laziness just stops you. Next level is action. Action doesn't mean that it's constantly growing. Then we come to a third level, which is amazing, of Mailim B'Kodesh V'Einim Eden, in the thing which teaches us about action, in the thing which teaches us about the advantage over potential, but actuality, implementation, therein, in the same story of the Mishkan, which the whole idea, according to the commentators, why it was repeated, was to teach us this lesson, that it's not only about the potential, but actuality. We also are taught at the same time, if you want to succeed in actuality, the real way is that you have to keep on working, striving for higher. In the Goyish world, there's something called sharpening the saw. I'm not saying it means that, but it's included. You could use that over here also. In other words, the real way is that we're constantly going more and more. True work means we're not satisfied with any status quo. And that's also connected with the name of the Parsha, Pekudei. One of the translations of the word Pekudei is in accounting. And the Alter Rebbe in Perik Choftes of Tanya says a person has to be a Mored D'Chushbon, have a master's of an account. And that obviously means anybody who makes an account and comes to the conclusion, oh, it's all good, I can rest on my laurels and be complacent, doesn't get the whole point. The point of every accounting is that the bottom line is, I should be able to see how I can do more. You may be satisfied that what you accomplished, but the whole point is, just like businesses that make an accounting, stock taking, the whole point of the business is to make even more profit. And the same thing is in Avodas Hashem. And Rabbi Yael gave an example, an explanation why it's called the masters of accounting. And he said there's a difference between the boss or the accountant who's making a reckoning. The difference is that the accountant, if he finds out where the flaw was, that they didn't make a profit, he's happy. Because, okay, I figured it out. I can tell you where the problem is. And he's happy. But the word is, the Alter Rebbe says you should be a Mored D'Chushbon, a masters of an account. You have to make an account like it's your life. It's your business. It's your profit. And then when you make an account and a reckoning, you are making it with a magnifying glass. You don't want to make any mistake whatsoever. And the bottom line is, if you found the reason why you lost money, you're not happy because in the end you lost money. So it's not a technical accounting just to understand what happened. It's a matter of life and death. It's my life. It's my business. It's my money. So you make a whole different sort of account and you come to a whole different sort of conclusions. So a person who demands from himself in a good way, striving for excellence. So he's making a Pekudei, he's making a Sachakel, he's making a Cheshbon, and he comes to the conclusion, as good is better and better. If good is better and better. I have to demand more for myself. That's the whole point of making a Cheshbon Nefesh, is I have to look at it and say, where could have I done better? And that's the connection to Parshas HaChodesh. HaChodesh Hazel Lechem. Now we're going to another level. Not only are we constantly increasing Mailim B'Kodesh, but HaChodesh means a new level completely, next level completely, exponential. HaChodesh means that the next step is so exponentially higher that we leaped completely beyond the previous level. And the Yid has that koyach, HaChodesh Hazel Lechem. Hashem should help. We should go from the end of Parshas Pekudei, Chazak v'nis chazek, from the greatest day of joy of Chodesh Adar, that we had Mishenichnas Adar Marben B'Simcha. From that day we should leap, Mailim B'Kodesh. We should leap Tanzendigkeit und Freilichkeit in Reish Chodesh Nissen, benissen Nigalu und benissen Asin Goel, begula mitzvah shleima, take it from a yad, mamish, posting from my home. Be'ez Hashem Yisborach, your man in Melbourne.